but hey, what's up? It's DGL7. Today, actually, I have a very special guest, a U.S. presidential candidate, someone that was actually I've been following for quite some time, and I want to get him in the studio for an interview. So here we go. So your name is Andy. Well, actually, let's introduce yourself. Go ahead.
Yo, I'm Andy Hope Williams Jr., aka the Hood Candidate. That's me. That's me.
Okay. So the thing is that usually I run my interview like the first half is getting to know you, the second half is really like getting to know your policies. So the first thing I'm going to ask you is, you know, what brought you into just the political stuff in general? Like,
I really was first introduced to politics with my background. At a time, I was part of the street tribe or gang called Gangster Disciple. Came out with a new concept under Larry Hoover called from the blueprint from Gangster Disciple to Growth and Development. And part of that teaching talked about politics, education, economic politics. So that was the first time I really was introduced on a personal level to politics. That was about 20 years ago, about in 90, 95, 96. And he was on this Ghetto Boy CD, The Resurrection. That's my first introduction to politics from a real personal level.
okay, appreciate that. The next question will be, so the thing is that certain people have certain, sometimes they like to claim certain ideologies. They'll be like, oh, I'm a socialist, I'm a conservative, they'll say all kinds of different things. Do you have a certain political ideology that you follow?
Yeah, it's to call the people. That's my ideology. We are people. And see, the thing about what's happening is people are divided against people, and it's causing a whole bunch of unnecessary situations that is infringing upon our freedom based on other people's belief system. So I think when we come to the commonality that we are just people, regardless what you believe, whatever your spiritual, ideological, political background, one thing for the most part we should be able to agree on is we are people, and we don't need parents to tell us what to do based on policies. See, it's the policies that is affecting the people, and when you the current government system, it's this thing I think it's Latin Los Parentes or something. The government thinks it's the people's parents, and that's what keeps us enslaved by their policies, which are all unconstitutional, or it infringes upon our unalienable rights, meaning it's our birthright. So, my ideology is people. If we talk about my spiritual, I'm going to resonate with the Hebrew Israelites, meaning that the Bible is my history book. So I come from the tribe of Judah. But if there's a disagreement about my spirituality, that's not up for debate, because my spirituality is not about oppressing other people. I'm all about freedom of choice, as long as your choice doesn't try to infringe upon my rights or my property or other people's rights or their property. So we're going to keep it simple like that.
I appreciate that a lot. Yeah, I know there's a lot of people who would want to maybe recategorize you as populist, but I want you to listen to canon what them themselves have to say instead of putting your own right bent on it. It's very important to learn how you can't see it for themselves. So appreciate your words on that. Now the thing is that there's different people who come to the run for offices with different levels of experience, different levels of achievement. Out of all the things, some people want to ask them this question, like, what are you most proud of? They'll say, my kids. But I'm going to ask, not saying it's completely irrelevant, but something that's more relevant to management or government or something in general, maybe passed a law or maybe, you managed a certain group. What are you most proud of achieving? That's relative to the position you're running for.
I'm most proud of the change that I did within my own self, because I'm running with a position on life experience, understanding that the position of president is a job. So a lot of the promises about what we could do, what we're gonna do, is not even accurate, because the job description doesn't allow you to do that. So the smoke and mirror game, the dangling the carrot game, what's been going on at least for the last 50 years, is not factual. If we just do a straight time check, each parties have controlled the House in the last 50 years several times, and we still are wanting changes. And that's where I'm coming in, saying the change we want is within the people, because we have the power. We outnumber the 535 in Congress that is elected. We the people outnumber them. We the people outnumber everything that's going on. So why don't we the people take the power we have and create a new government, one by the people, for the people? Because we are the people.
Okay.
That means Bloods, Crips, Republicans, Democrats, the people and the folks, Christians, Muslims, Hindus, atheists. That's the people. And we have the power. We have the power to come together as people. That's what I'm most proud of. The change that happened in me, that I removed the blinders from my own eyes and began to realize this division, this divisive stuff, it's all a bunch of games, man. It's not life. We're not living our unalienable rights. We're not living freedom with our birthright when there's certain policies that can ticket you because you didn't stop at a stop sign. It's certain policies that say if I put you in prison, first of all, putting you in prison is already unconstitutional for these victimless crimes because you lack Article 3 standing that's written right there in the Constitution and applies to the states under the Supremacy Clause through the 14th Amendment. Like you violating the own blueprint that has been created to limit government, you know? So why don't somebody that's got experience from the hood, been in gangs, been in drugs? It was my friend that did the mass shooting in Aurora, Illinois at Henry Pratt that shot 5 people. I'm the one that had to do the eulogy at his funeral. My little brother died of opioid overdose. Come on, man. This personal. This ain't about if you elect me, this what you gonna do. We saying we can't wait till November 5th, 2024. What we gotta do is start teaching people about our rights that was given to us by our birth. We got to start teaching people about the oath of office that each one of these elected officials, judicial officers, prosecutors are violating. We electing people and we still paying taxes? Is the people the slave to the system that they created? How did the creator be controlled by the created? We got the power to change that. And that's what I'm representing. That's what I'm most proud of.
I appreciate that. Yeah. Just so you know, just a little aside, I actually do work with many communities, from people in public housing, people that are, people with disabilities, people with wrongful incarcerations, things like that. And out of all the groups that I work with, I really work with a lot of people that have been discarded on the edges, and the people that have been formerly incarcerated with their long-standing fight against the legal system. They're often some of the best political partners. A lot of the people in public
Definitely.
housing, even though they have the numbers, a lot of them have been taught to be kind of let things happen to them and not really to confront or fight the system. So unfortunately, they're not really the best political partners. I'm just going to be real with you, but I have a lot. My heart is still with them and still working on their issues. But
Yeah, well,
really, yeah. Go
I
ahead.
you know, I've been to prison. Not a huge bit or nothing like that, but I spent accumulation of 2.5 years in the system, being physically locked down.
Right.
When the foreclosure crisis hit, I fought a foreclosure for 13 years. I self-taught everything about securitization, mortgage-backed securities, pooling services agreement. I sued the Bank of New York, Mellon, Bank of America, Chase. I started building law firms doing this. When Obama passed that package for the banks, he didn't need Congress approval. And I speak about that because the foreclosure I fought for 13 years, I mean, helping people move when the sheriff come kick them out, even though I was working in a law firm. Like, yo, I get out the suit. Yo, we finna go help the people because that's what real community work does. And when Obama passed that package, under the stimulus package for the banks, I was offended by that because he touted his background as a community advocate, activist. So how would you bail out the banks to stabilize the economy instead of just setting the people free? That would have been made the sense. And that's where my heart is at. So, part of the campaign is about prisoners matter because that's a huge thing because it's legalized slavery. I just fought a wrongful eviction, took it to jury trial in federal court, never did a jury trial before. The jury deliberated for 6.5 hours, and I lost. Could I have won? Yes, I could have won if I understood what to do. But no lawyers were taking the case, and I just lost because I didn't know how to present the evidence. But I still fought it, and I still, got a second bite at the apple with it. So when it comes to the experience, I feel like those that are always not being able to fight, they got somebody that's representing. That's what I do. And what we're saying is we don't got to wait till November 5th, 2024 to get assistance from Andy the Hood candidate because this is my ministry. I'm born for this. I can't even push a real political quote unquote presidential campaign because it's who I am. I am the most qualified for the job. And if we ever want to talk about how to make America great again, we got to go back to the Aboriginal way, give back the land. Let's start with the doctrine of discovery, where the native, the Aboriginals that were here in the land that was took by the first started out with the British, but then the Europeans, the Irish, the Germans that migrated over here in the 1800s. So how did you come to a land that was already occupied and now you controlling it? That's a takeover. And we all people here are prisoners of war, regardless of what your skin color is. The minute you got to pay for a license to get married, that's a prisoner of war. They're telling you to follow our rules and policy. The minute you go to work and they taking taxes out of your check, that means you a slave to the system that you created, and it's not only unconstitutional, it's wrong from inception.
Yeah. Now you're having actually, just so you know, luckily for my show, most of the people that are watching this is not really a pop, a platform. This, popular platform. This is really a focused on other activist people that are candidates, people that are other electeds. So you threw out a very high information dense talking about like the Obama, talking about your own court case, things like that. A lot of people have not had experience with this, won't really get that, but my audience hopefully will, and I'm very excited to work with you. We're going to talk about some more things soon, but these are pretty, but I'll be honest, I like some of the answers so far, so we're going to see where we go, but we're still, well, I'm very cautious, right? Yeah,
Yeah, no, it's
don't
fair. It's
want to just
fair.
believe anything, but we're going to see where we go with this, right? And it was, so I appreciate that. And let's move on to the next question right here. These are all standardized questions. The next question will be, sometimes when people have certain ideologies that they state, um, something that can help us to really understand better what's going on is to really ask about who's been influential on their type of ideology. So some people might say, "Oh, I'm a socialist." Then they say, "Oh, I follow Lenin," or "I follow like who's that guy in Venezuela, right? Chavez or something." They'll have different, maybe it's not even about ideology, but do you have a certain people that have been influential to your work or your view of things?
There has been, and I have a list of them. But if I, talk the main ones, it would be Frederick Douglass in the spirit of the republicanism from him to as an abolitionist to abolish slavery. Then I would also talk about John F. Kennedy when it comes to the mental health position because that's what he was, passed legislation or did stuff around that, and a little bit with the immigration too. When it comes to a spiritual base, it's a guy named Mike Murdoch. That his whole platform was about wisdom. He said wisdom is the principal thing. He's out of Texas. And then it's Tony Evans, a minister out of Dallas, Texas, too, that I grew up, listening to him on Moody Bible at 11:30 because I was suspended from school when I be with my dad, and that's what my dad would listen to at 11:30. Then I would go into the Blueprint, Larry Hoover. Never met him personally, but the Blueprint from Gangster Disciple to Growth and Development was a phenomenal, phenomenal, phenomenal blueprint. And then Leisure, just which is real, that helped shape my ideology, is John Grisham. He's an author, and I've read so many of his books because I love to read, on a relaxation. But I also can go down and say I'm inspired by some of the things Trump has done, and the reason why is because Donald Trump is the reason why those that have been formerly incarcerated will have the right to vote when he got kicked off the ballot. That 24-page Supreme Court decision made it very clear the states don't have power over the federal government. There's two different jurisdictions. So now under the 15th Amendment, everybody who's been disenfranchised that don't have the right to vote, as soon as we bring this voting rights suit out, now brothers and sisters across the states got the right to vote based on, Trump preparing the way for our generation, which I like to say we the Joshua generation, from a scriptural standpoint, but we are the Joshua generation. And I
Well,
it's
I'm very excited to actually talk. We're going to talk about a lot of other interesting things towards the end of this thing, but you just said quite a few names right there. It's good to get a really, to really help us to understand your vision and your stuff. So let's move on to the there's Did I ask you what you're most proud of accomplishing? I think I did, right?
If I just sum it up in one, back in July 2021, I sued the United States and 31 states for their ongoing role of slavery.
Appreciate that. Yeah. All right.
Hmm.
Now let's get to understand some of your policy positions here. Now the thing is that I work with many partners. I have my own interests I'll be asked about at the end, but I like to put my partners first. So hopefully we work together, and you're going to see that as a constant within my work. So the first thing I'm going to ask about is well, we're not going to go into the history of what happened there, but let's traditionally I usually start off asking about the Assange thing. Would you support the freedom of Julian Assange?
Yes, I would. From based on what I know, I support the freedom from anybody that's locked up where there's no victim involved.
Okay. Let's go
It's
on to number.
simple.
Appreciate that. Now the thing is that another group that I work with is people with oh, you know what? I'm actually Asian American, as you could tell, right? Yeah. And in the Andrew Yang quarter, which some things happened there. We're not going to talk about that at the moment, but a lot of people that I used to work with used to be very strong UBI proponents. UBI standing for Universal Basic Income. What's your position on UBI?
I never really got into the UBI, but my basic position is to resurrect the concept of Black Wall Street and eradicate poverty from the bottom up because now we are controlling the economic base in our communities. I'm not the proponent of always giving something because then that puts us dependent on the government. And anytime you're dependent on a government to take care of you, you are considered their property. So what I'm considering is saying, how can we, the people, empower our own selves to create our own economic base within? And if you go to my website, there's a book that talks about. In fact, on my campaign website, there's several books and movies that talk about where I've drawn my most inspiration from. But one of the books is Profit from the Bottom of the Pyramid, and it talks about an economic base that's using the poverty and aligning with them to create the economic sustainability within the
Okay, so the
community.
first thing you said though in the answer was Black Wall Street, and a
Hmm.
lot of people, maybe Black Wall Street is different, right, than regular Wall Street. Obviously, it is. But when people think about Wall Street, they generally think of elites. They generally think of millionaires, right? But then you said Black Wall Street, and then you said all this stuff like coming from the bottom. So how is this Black Wall Street, right? Yeah, different from the regular Wall Street as we know it, besides being bottom up, and how does that work?
Because the Black Wall Street was a community in Tulsa, Oklahoma. They owned their own land and everything. They were not a corporation. And what they did is they had schools, doctors, buses, airplanes. They were lawyers. It was a strong economic base, right after like early 1900s, 1920. That's a model, is what I'm saying. And that model, it's called the Black Wall Street, and it wasn't just in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It was in North Carolina, Chicago. I'm saying that model can be done again. And in fact, not only with just that model, in the Department of Corrections Michigan prison bill, they have partnered with the the villagers is what they call the prisoners are villagers, and they teach them how to build housing. And then they had partnered with the army to take those prefab walls and then bring them out to the community. Now you're building sustainable housing, and as well as what that's like a social enterprise that Father Greg Boyle out of Homeboy Industries is doing with the homeboys and the
So
homegirls.
So, quick question. The thing is that we know the Black Panthers also had like a lot of self sustainability projects, things
Hmm.
like that, which this sounds like, right? Kind of like independent, self sustaining. So how is this? I just want to make just pick the last thing in. Oh, because there was a previous movement called Black Wall Street, which was also associated with self sustainability and independence, I guess. So, just I was just trying to see where the Wall Street was in this Black Wall Street thing, but
That's just what they called it,
I
and
understand.
and
That's fair.
and that was it. And and the last thing I'll say is one of the ways to make America great again is to bring it back to Turtle Island. So now you bring the Aboriginals that's out of Oklahoma, South Dakota, Wisconsin, those, and we tap into that. Currently the VP running mate that I'm looking for, I thought I had one previously before, but that didn't work out. I always wanted a female native to the land, a female aboriginal. So I got my feelers out for somebody. It's two people that I want, because when you don't have the life experience, you want to align yourself with somebody with the experience. And that's what makes America great again, because it's going back to the concept of Turtle Island that dealt with a restorative justice, the aboriginal, indigenous to the land, where the land was truly Mother Earth.
Well, I'll put you in contact. I actually have the email addresses of every single federal candidate running for office. So I'm actually going to, you know, I have some suggestions. We'll talk about that later. Yeah,
Definitely,
we'll
let's
see where
do
that
it.
can go.
Let's
Okay.
do that. But you know where
All
my
right.
heart is at. It's I truly want that female Aboriginal, indigenous that was brought up in that culture to be
Well,
that VP running mate.
we'll see where that goes. Okay, let's move on to another ally of mine, the disabled community. And the thing is that, right now there's something where people with disabilities are allowed to be paid sub minimum wage. Now, the thing is that I could understand maybe there's questions about, the productivity, things like that. But if we look at minimum wage, often it's, kind of paired with, a minimal standard of living, like the poverty lines, things like that. So, maybe it's federal subsidies, maybe it's other type of things, right? Maybe, but would you support at least a minimum wage lifestyle and compensation for people who have disabilities?
So under the American Disabilities Act, which I'm very familiar with, that it's already unconstitutional to treat somebody different based on a disability. So any company right now that would be doing that, that's in the public, would be infringing upon their rights. And what I would use is the DOJ, which they're there for, is to bring a claim against these companies and set the standard. We would set precedent. Period. We're just going to
It's
come
yeah,
in.
it's also illegal to discriminate against black people in housing,
Hmm.
but for some reason, black people's homes are worth less than white people's homes. So the laws say whatever, but then the reality is unfortunately very different.
And that's why it takes somebody with the real life experience to come in and be in this position. It doesn't
I
take
agree.
me. It doesn't take me winning to
Yeah,
do this, because I've been doing it. I've been bringing claims. I've sued prosecutors. I've sued judges. Nobody's immune from being accountable when you infringe upon the people's rights. And that's where I'm coming in at as one of the people, saying, listen, y'all, we create our own government, because the one that's right here, right now, it needs to be abolished. It's written right there in the Declaration of Independence. We, the people, not only have a right to create and form a new government, it's our duty. And why would we try to change government when we can create one by the people?
I agree with you. So, the disabilities, you would support at least minimum wage for people with disabilities?
I don't think I want to say I'd support minimum wage just in that way. I think I'd rather say let's look at each scenario and make sure they have a sustainability for their life. Because minimum wage ain't sustaining nothing. Not when the rent increases is going up. So we got to look at the situation at hand and have a relationship with the people and say, listen, we want to make sure that you thrive and survive. Not saying here's just minimum wage and now we're done with it. That's not the administration. That's not the way that I see how stuff should be done. This has got to really be about the least of these and uplifting them.
Well, you're getting me excited because honestly, this is actually a huge problem in the activism world from the bottom to the top, right?
Correct.
Where they sell us these BS solutions and they're actually weaponized against us. So, saying a lot of music to my ears. I really appreciate that. Let's
And
move
I
to
got
another. Yeah.
background with this though. Everything that I'm sharing with you, I show you the lawsuits. I show you what I've done. You go to the Hood Candidate website. I done sued people about infringing on our rights for so many things, and I have just begun. And that's why I want access to the DOJ. All these, the ACLU, those that are doing good things, and different law firms and lawyer activists like Alec out of Washington D.C. We got our own DOJ now.
I really love a lot of things you're saying. Unfortunately, a lot of the general public is used to watered down crap. So they're not actually used to hearing from people that are actually qualified. They're used to a pretty face saying what they want to hear, which is reinforced by the gatekeepers of some watered down narrative. And they're not used to the complexities that are going on here or the realities because they're sold a dream and a lie. So
That's right.
I'm very excited to, you're saying a lot of real stuff here, but let's finish off the questions for my partners, and then I'll ask about some of my own, and then we will move towards some of the other organizing that I'm doing on the side. So this, but very exciting answers. I'm already like a lot of what you're saying. By the way, a quick turn. I was actually referred to your campaign by someone named Brian from something called an American Union. He's actually a former New Hampshire legislator. Has he ever reached out to you? to make things happen? Or yeah,
I'm not sure.
it's okay. Don't worry about it. I know a lot of people
Yeah,
are
but I
hitting you up.
will though. I'll
Yeah.
find out.
Oh, don't. We're gonna talk about probably near the end of this particular to the interview. But just wanted to know where that went. Okay, so
Okay.
disabilities community. That's cool. Another community that I am actually working with is the trans community. And the thing is that right now, when you look at trans people, they face a lot of discrimination in their lives. They have trouble getting a job, they have trouble getting housing, and I understand. Not saying I'm for it or against it, but well, I'm not really for it at all. But the thing is that these people often find themselves having to apply for public housing because they are having trouble getting a job, trouble, staying employed, things like that. So the thing is that this is a hypothetical question. Let's say that 10% of the people applying for public housing are trans. Then we do a little survey inside public housing. We see that only 1% of the people who are actually in public housing are actually trans. So we see that there's actually discrepancy, right? And then we say, you know what, why? So we ask the trans people in the housing, we say, what's going on? Why is there only 1% here when 10% of people are applying? They say we're being discriminated against, we're getting beat up, stuff like that. We're facing this type of thing. Now, there's no law saying that you can discriminate against trans people, but we see the reality is something different. What would you be some of the steps you might take to try to fix this situation?
Right. So first, there doesn't need to be a law because there's already a right. It's already a right to be whatever you want to. But one of the things I do is I think about solutions. So what I can do in the role of government or as one of the people, let's just say that, is we can empower the trans community on how to pool their resources together and build their own housing. Because the minute you keep depending on somebody to do something for you, you are being enabled. You have the freedom of choice that you are born with. You do not need somebody to do anything for you. We have the power to do it together. And that's what I'm saying we can do, whether you're trans, whether it's the prisoners population, which I'm big on. You know what I'm saying? We outnumber everybody. My solution is a three-step plan that I do with the hood candidate. Litigation. That's one step. When I discuss litigation, I'm saying we can challenge all these unconstitutional laws that are infringing and depriving upon our rights. Then it's legislation. When I talk about legislation, it's always about repealing the RICO, the Controlled Substance Act, the Death Penalty Act. All these acts are just acts. Repeal them because they're unconstitutional. That's what I'm talking about legislation. I'm not looking to pass no real legislation. Let's get past this bogus legislation, the 1994 crime bill. Let's get rid of that first. And then the third one, and this is where we the people have the power, we all could run for office.
Actually, your answer is extremely exciting to me because that's already something I'm engaged with, trying to get people to run for office. We made the
Hmm.
voter database open to the public. And earlier, you remember me talking about the public housing sector and how they're unable to fight for themselves versus people that have been fighting the system right from inside the system, right after
Hmm.
being locked up. So you're absolutely right in the thing. Like for me personally, right, usually I try to keep my things somewhat balanced, but I'm just a lot of things you're saying are very true. This is coming from an activist with 25 years of experience in the game. So I
Right.
really appreciate your answers. You're saying a lot of real truth. And Malcolm X, just so you know, said if you know if people were good, we wouldn't need laws. So actually, there's a lot of there's precedence for what you've said from other very well-known activists. But you should be actually recognized on your own strengths, not just because someone famous like Malcolm X said it, right?
Right.
So
Right.
you're
Which
saying a
is
lot of truth there.
which is that's my brother. He tatted on my arm by any means necessary. I didn't even mention El Haj Malik Shabazz, but his principle, his commitment, his dedication, impeccable,
Yeah,
impeccable
they're gonna.
focus.
They just had the 99th anniversary with the Black Panthers for I think Malcolm. I think it was his wife. I think it was or something like that.
His
So I
his,
gotta
his daughter.
the 100th. Oh, the 100th one's coming up next year. So I don't know if
Hmm.
you're going to go to that. I might actually go to the 100th one. Yeah.
Probably most definitely by then we'll be made a lot of strides forward. So yeah,
Yeah.
the spirit of Malcolm is here in my heart. It's the spirit of him.
And the idea of self sufficiency really lines up with the Black Panthers. I've been actually pursuing them on other stuff. So there might be a way for us to really combine these groups together and work together on some shared solutions. So it sounds like there's a
I'd
lot of
appreciate that.
focus there. Cool. And you knew about the. It was a, that's cool. You knew it was the daughter. You seem to be on the same mailing lists, things like that.
Now I don't
That's
know.
cool.
I'm very connected in with the spiritual part of the ancestors. Like so it's just a lot of downloads I be getting. So yeah.
Appreciate you making time for me, man. I'm getting a lot of communications myself, but that's cool that we're paying attention to the same things. All right, so now the is this the last one? This might be the last partner that I work with. There probably are some other ones, but the wrongful conviction. We're gonna talk about them in a second. I need to add them, but another one is something called right to repair. I don't know if you heard of the concept, something called right to repair.
I don't think so.
Okay. So right now, what happens is that people have like these cell phones and stuff, and now what happens is that they're saying that rather than fix your phone, a lot of times you have to buy a new phone because they
Hmm.
want you to just keep buying new things. A lot of things now also, instead of being actually able to own your software, they have you on a subscription model, right? And then now, like your car, if you want to have, like they're starting with heated seats, they're going to put it for other things. Instead of, you don't get to own anything anymore, right? You don't get to modify your own equipment anymore. You don't have the right to repair your own products. You have to go to an authorized dealer. Now, the thing is that the car industry already went through this before. The cars actually, now you can go to any garage and get your car serviced.
Right.
But, actually servicing the cars is a huge money maker for the car companies. And now this is being rolled out to, if you ever go to McDonald's, you'll notice that a lot of times the ice cream machines never ever work. That's because they're in a predatory contract that says every time they got to fix the machine, it costs like tens of thousands of dollars just to fix the ice cream machine. Then it breaks down like in a couple days. Then they got to pay another tens of thousands again. They just said forget it. The American military had predatory contracts with the servicing, where Biden had to actually shut down the predatory servicing contracts that were being used by the contractors to milk the United States for money. So the right to repair, um, we can talk about more about that going on, but I do appreciate this idea of not being able to own or being able to control your own destiny anymore and have it be in the hands of these monopolizers and these big trust funds. You know what I mean? So it does line up, but we'll talk more about that later. That's fine. People have to learn about these topics before they just go and say, "Oh yeah, I'm for it." Because a lot of things, like we said before, are weaponized against us. So now I'm going to actually ask about your presidential run. Some of the larger topics at hand. Being president means that you would actually be in charge of foreign affairs, be in charge of our relationships with other countries, things like that. So right now we have these things popping off in Israel, Palestine. We have things popping off in Russia, Ukraine, and actually a lot of countries they're not talking about, like Haiti, Kenya, Korea, Senegal, Eritrea, Ethiopia, right? Um, what's your take on foreign policy for the United States?
Whew. I love this question. I think what really needs to happen is we need to deal with domestic policies first. And when it comes to the foreign policies of foreign wars and the things that's happening, foreign aid, we haven't really dealt with the houselessness or homelessness here. We haven't dealt with the lack of accountability for the police shootings or the shootings in our own communities. We haven't dealt with the health care. So I think as the commander in chief, dealing with foreign affairs, we need to handle the domestic affairs first. Whatever agreements that we have with foreign countries, my main position is let us teach you how to sustain and let's barter and trade on the resources that we don't have that you have. Because at some point, we all want to just live. And that's why I talk about the Joshua generation, because we outnumber all of any generation, the X. We outnumber every generation right now. Why don't we do what we would want for our own selves? And a lot of times when we talk about these wars going on, we don't even really know the root of the war, why it's truly happening. And the way to solve any problem is get to the root of the problem. And from the outside, I can only speculate, I can only presume. But when I get in the inside, when I use my brother Ken Armstrong, who's got background, he was running as president for the Libertarian Party before. He's got that strong, military or background in. That's who I bring in. That's my circle of counsel. I'm not finna sit here and tell you I got the solution to every single thing. But as a leader, we got to make decisions that affect the people. And before we start sending billions and millions over there to somewhere else, we need to take care of the issues right here at home.
Great
We could,
words, man. As
yeah,
someone who's actually a generational victim of war, And I'm also very skeptical of the narrative that's placed before us. I love your answer right there. Nas said,
Yeah.
"How can you fix overseas when you ain't fixed home?"
Hmm.
Like there's a lot of truth in that, right? We actually incarcerate black people at a rate 5 times more than white people. And just so you know, Native Samoans are actually jailed more than Latinos. So they don't talk about that, right? They talk about black and brown people, then they exclude the AAPI, right? There's a lot of manipulation of the facts. So you're absolutely right. People don't know even why they're at war. They
Hmm.
they people don't even really know yet why. So
Hmm.
you're absolutely right, man. I really appreciate that answer. Okay, another thing that's a big spending for the U.S. besides the military is also entitlements, welfare, Social Security, things like that. What are your thoughts on benefits and entitlements for
So under the Clinton administration, they did welfare to work. It was
That's
welfare to
right.
work.
Oh my god, I've talked
Hmm.
about this multiple times.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
So
damn
so
right.
we bringing
Yeah.
that back. We bringing that back. And I think the
Well,
welfare to work was a good program, but it
eh.
wasn't monitored the right way. So
Yeah.
that's what we're doing. See, one of the things I believe in is I don't have a problem giving you a hand up. I have the problem giving you the hand out.
Out.
There's
Yeah, I
no
get that.
reason why somebody should be on Section 8 from 20 and still be on it at 60. That's not a reason. This, like, you got to pass that buck on, right here in Chicago. And I bring this up. The foreigners here in Chicago have more access to housing than those that have uh, uh, been on the waiting list. That's a backwards position because those that have been on the waiting list, they should be going into housing. Those that were currently in housing should be in government subsidy should be moving into housing because there's vacant lots all over for $1. So when you take the vocational village model that's in the Department of Correction prison bill, partner with Habitat for Humanity, you're moving them in. Boom! Now you're going into the house. Now these foreigners that are here or the migrants that's coming over, now you get to go into the Section 8 housing from the one that was in there that moved into a housing, not just skip the line and go there. Like, I don't understand the backwardsness of this system that's not working for we the people. And it
Yeah.
takes somebody with common sense that I think is real common sense, basic stuff that we learn as children. Man, just do what's right.
Some of the workfare stuff that came out. I do understand where you're coming from. Once again, we're talking about like being trained to be helpless, things like that, which is a lot of what's going on. I'm not 100% for the Clinton move, though. There was other problematic things, but I get what you're saying. With that, there's a lot of truth in what you said right there.
Right.
Let's talk about another big topic that's going on with the. What about the migrant issue? That's a big issue right now, right? What do you think about our borders, things like that?
So I believe there needs to be secure borders, um, just because we have to protect the people that's here. But I think that there's got to be a more lawful way of doing it. And this millions, well, thousands of dollars to come here and do this, that's ridiculous. You're spending all this money for Border Patrol instead of just spending the money to bring in a solution that streamlines the process.
Okay,
Streamline the process. And the other thing is, wherever the individuals are fleeing from, maybe the United States can enter into a peace treaty or some kind of agreement with that to assist them so they're not coming as migrants but as tourists.
I love what you said earlier, right? Address the core issue, right? Yeah,
Mhm.
stop putting on these BS, right? Solutions. Address the real part of the problem, and that's I agree with you 100% on that. So, okay, so besides that, federal, right? We know that the local takes care of like real estate, right? Schools, things like that. Usually, federal takes care of like the mail, right? There's other, international affairs, things like that. Um, are there any other particular? Well, also education is something that does have like some federal influence, right? Housing, things
Mhm.
like that. What are your ideas on educational reform?
So I don't believe that education should be put into the hands of the government. I just do not. I think we the people from vocational charter schools, faith based, whatever it is, there can be a centralized form of education that can assist the people. But we got to be honest here. the Library of Congress has so much information, and what they're teaching in school today in some of the places, I guess, because I'm not telling you I'm looking at everybody's curriculum, it doesn't even align with their own history that's in the Library of Congress. So there's some
You're damn right.
there's some
Damn right.
deceptiveness there, you know. So I have some friends that have master degrees in education and things like that. I'll lean into that. Again, I'm just the commander in chief. I'm not the head of the Department of Education. We bring in people that run that, and that requires a table of different cultures and ethnicities to pass that. I mean, not even to pass that, to put it together. So we're teaching history, not his story. And
Okay.
is every bit of history relevant at certain age groups? I think some of the history that we're teaching needs to be an advanced class, because also in the history there's a part that we're teaching hate, and that's, come on, man, you got to be mature enough to deal with certain things and say that was then, that's not now. I'm sharing this with you just for information, revelation, not to be like, now it's time to, hey, you did this to me, I'm gonna do this to you. So then we keep this war going on for generation and generations, and that's what I'm saying. We got to end the war. This is bullcrap. We got to stop this.
I'm gonna shout out 12 Veils right now. 12 Veils actually another activist that I work with here in New York City. She's actually a volunteer sometimes with something called National Action Network, associated with Al Sharpton. She's actually got me to a lot of powerful techniques. I know there's criticism of Al Sharpton. I'm not going to say that those are not legitimate. I'm not going to say that nobody's a god or the devil, right? We have to really, once again, be self-sustaining and look out for our own interests. And
Hmm.
Al, to an extent, is looking out for his own interests, but we can work together on some things where there's space. Yeah, we're not always going to see things eye to eye. Like I
Right.
definitely have some criticisms as well. Actually, we'll talk about that later. But once again, shout out to her work. And she
Woo
said,
woo.
yeah, she said, what law firm or who are the lawyers that this candidate is working with? I
Uh,
know you've done some legal work. Go ahead. Who's been?
Most of the law firms I work with is my own. I'm be
I
honest
feel
with you.
you on that.
Like, what I do is I empower people by teaching them how we follow the blueprints of what have already won. I'm the component saying nothing new. Everything
Yeah.
that we're going through has already happened. We just find it. So I do my own drafting. I do my own paperwork. And for me, law is real simple. Just don't do
Yeah.
nobody no harm. The rest of the stuff is policies. Legalize slavery. That's what legislation is. And I think as when we the people begin to share the blueprint, what's worked. And I'll tell you, ACLU, they have a lot of their complaints that they file or claims on their website. I just take them down. Boom. I read through them. My patient bill be very high because I'm just reading and then I put it together. Now there's certain things that I don't know, and I do reach out to certain lawyers. But when they don't respond back, I'm not gonna say, well, they didn't respond back, I'm giving up. Nah, we got to keep pushing. And the more and more we celebrate our wins with each other, instead of me saying, well, I know how to do this, you got to give me $20,000 retainer. That's ridiculous, bro.
Yeah.
Man.
I tell people all the time, just 12 veils. I don't know if you've probably heard this from me before, but I always tell people, stop trusting your lawyer. The fact of the matter is they have a relationship with the judge, they'll trade you off for another case. Number one. Number two, right? The fact of the matter is that it's not their ass on the line. People fire their lawyers all the time. They got other clients they're working with. Are you the priority? You have to take care of your own stuff. You could consult with them, sure, but do not rely on them, exactly like you said. If they give up and then you think your case is over, oh, no, 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 no. They're just giving up another client, one of maybe 20, 30 clients they're working with right now, while it's your ass on the, you got to fight for yourself. You got to know what's going on at all times. Sometimes the lawyer is going to ask you a question. Do you want this? Do you want to take this deal or do you not want to take this deal? If you don't know what's going on, you won't be able to be qualified to make that decision. So you need to know what's going on at all times. You cannot just, oh, I'm going to trust the lawyer to handle you're absolutely right. As an active working and an advocate who's seen so many people victimized by their own lawyers. I've even exposed Legal Aid Defense Fund. A lot of the free lawyers that's provided to people are actually paid on the back end by the people that's oppressing them. So y'all got to wake up and stop. Right? I'm not saying all lawyers are bad. You
Right,
can
right.
consult with them. They have some experience. Do not trust them to handle your case. Handle the case yourself. Ask them for help, sure, but don't put the power of attorney into their hands where they get to speak for you. That's a very dangerous thing.
And just to keep in line, the Sixth Amendment guarantees you the right to assistance of counsel, the right to assistance.
Yeah.
And that's what they do. When lawyers speak for us, they consider us as minors. We're wards of the state. We're their property. So they're speaking for us because we can't speak for ourselves. And I'm saying no. I don't mind having assistance of counsel because again, I lost that trial because I didn't know how to present the evidence. I had it all. I just didn't know, but I wasn't afraid. What if I had that assistance of counsel, that mentor? That's why I'm so big on vocational, because you got the mentor, apprenticeship, things like that that they're teaching you. But I'm telling you, once we start learning what our rights are and how to enforce our rights, we will get rid of this prison population by 60% right off the bat because nobody will be locked up in prison for no victimless crime. You wouldn't be
Yeah,
locked up for possession of drugs. Specifically, right now, when the 48, 49 attorney generals sued the I can't think of the company name, but they were selling pharmaceuticals for the opioid epidemic. They all were sued civilly. That's a selective prosecution. Why they wasn't brought criminal charges against when you got over 500,000 deaths tied to opioid overdoses? Again, my little brother committed suicide on that. Why are we being charged criminally, but they were being charged civilly? Civilly, violation of equal treatment, selective prosecution, 49 attorney generals. So we sue the AGs of the states. And
you
this
know,
is what we
yeah,
can do right now. This is not something we got to wait. We just got to come together and say, look, this is the area you're going to have. Because one thing about the hood candidate is we got our own hood justice. That's what we got. Because we have the power. It's affecting us. As you know, Malcolm said, listen, when it's time to go politics, we need somebody with a heart from the community that's in the community that can go in and run for office. Not just come dangling this carrot around when it's election time.
damn right. That's exactly what they're doing. Actually, there's a lot of just so you know, there's a lot of actually candidates that I work with. I did a similar project in the 22 election cycle, and a lot of them ran away because they're not really. A lot of these candidates are not really interested in working with me, like on a to actually solve the issues. They're more interested in talking about it. I actually looked up Aurora, and it's very close to Chicago, actually, just moments away. I also have a co-host from Los Angeles. So just so you know, I'm from New York City, the largest market in the nation with 8.5 million people, a lot of the largest urban university systems in the nation. My co-host is from LA, the second largest market in the nation, and I'm really looking for a partner from around Chicago, the third largest market in the nation, to really have this triumvirate of really being able to address things. I have wrongful incarceration people I'm working, such as Vincent Motor, the first man freed on DNA evidence in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania history. I have allies around the nation, a very key swing state. My man Brian from American Union is in North Carolina, once again, a very key swing state. And I really look forward to working with you to have maybe even a national forum on criminal justice reform. There's also other issues we talked about, education reform, the fact that the Asian American, I'm sorry to say, but the Asian American curriculum right now that's going to be mandatory in New York State is actually a travesty and actually an insult to Asian Americans. And I've actually reached out to historically black colleges, but a lot of the Al Sharptons of this world, the black, I guess you could say the bougie, have actually left behind other black people and also other minorities. And instead of helping us with our own curriculum and the same issues that were addressed in the beginning of um, the Black or African American studies programs, now we're actually having to refight a lot of those fights without really any actual acknowledgement of the same issues going on within our own community. So Asian American Pacific Islander Month is coming up real soon. Hopefully you could be a part of that. And also,
Definitely.
yeah, the criminal justice reform too. Once again, I have very powerful allies with me. And I think that this is once again, I have an email myself emailing Trump about the wrongful incarceration issues going on, where a federal court found that the Queens District Attorney was engaged in unfair, unconstitutional practices to cover up, right? Yeah, to cover up uh, the abuses of prosecutors, right? And that's still not being addressed. So maybe the Trump campaign has a very powerful allyship of New York, Pennsylvania, now maybe Illinois and LA that can come up and work with him. But if he does not address us and have a conversation with us, don't think our support is going to be for free. You know what I mean? Because we're frustrated with the Democrats. We played that game before. It's time for a real conversation, Trump people. And I got people. I'm here in New York, man. So we're gonna, you know, don't screw things up in New York, Trump. We could have a conversation, man. Let's have a conversation for real. I'm not against talking to you. I want to talk with you real bad. We gotta And there's other people that I'm going to bring up to your attention. This lady named, well, she's actually trans, so I'm not sure how you feel about it, but her name's Jasmine Sherman. She's actually did great in the debates against someone named Jill Stein, who's a lead candidate on the Green Party. But there's some racism going on too as well. She actually has some indigenous backgrounds. She could be a powerful ally to herself in terms of numbers.
Is she
And to
with the
force
Unicorn Party?
Oh yeah, she is.
Mm-hmm.
They could force those conversations to happen in the Green Party. These supposed allies. There's a lot of discrimination going on in that thing to really raise your profile within the Greens and other alternate solution parties that have unfortunately been captured by moneyed establishment elites that's not being discussed. So with it or without it, right, we could find a way to work forward. But I'm very excited about the things that you said, and just for my people that are out here, I've had over 100 candidate interviews like this. I had over 100 candidate. No, I'm sorry, 60. I think almost 70 candidate interviews like this, and I've had over 100 interviews with activists around the country. And actually, Andy says a lot of truths that a lot of these candidates. I would say he's definitely in the top 5%. In the top 5% of all the candidates that I've interviewed, as in terms of his knowledge and understanding of how the system is twisted against us, and he speaks to a lot of nuances that a lot of these bougie candidates that have never really struggled don't really understand. So I'm very excited to work with Andy on a further basis. We're going to be exchanging some emails. Not trusting 100%, but I'm saying that this is a candidate, once again, the top 5%. This is definitely a candidate you should be paying attention to. And I guarantee, just from the things that he said, he's been a long-time activist. He's going to so many candidates after the election's over and they lose, you never hear from them again. They're done with activism. They're done with helping people. They didn't get their little crown. You know what I mean? But I have a feeling that Andy's going to be in it for the long haul.
Yeah, I
Right?
already was.
Yeah.
After the 2020 election, I never stopped. And I
Well,
will never stop. I'm born for this.
hell yeah. That's a
Yeah, I'm
beautiful
born
thing,
for
man.
this.
Okay, I hope you look a little bit over my body of work. I have quite an extensive body of work. I know you're very busy right now. I'll send you some highlights. But folks, there's some big things coming up, and definitely I'm going to try to make Andy a big part of it. Yeah, it's an honor to meet you, sir.
Thank you.
Before we go, do you want to share your contact information, social media, campaign website, things like that?
I do. Here's my everything on social media. Just look me up as the Hood Candidate. Um, the Hood Candidate is where you can get everything at. But I do got my website www.awj.com, and then I just posted up my Hood Candidate. The Hood Candidate is the activism that goes on every day, all day. I eat, breathe, sleep this freedom movement. Literally. It's nothing else. Our freedom has been infringed upon so long. The people that's doing wrong think they're doing right, and the ones that are doing right sometimes question if we're doing wrong. No,
Okay, quick question: Do you have your own YouTube show, or maybe like a do you have like do like content on Facebook Live or anything like that?
no, I do not. I do have a YouTube channel, and I'm revamping it right now. You know what it is with activism and things like that. We're so busy in the movement, we don't take time to build the foundation. But I was able to get the foundation straight now with the campaign in my ministry, which is the Hood Candidate. So now we're going to bring out the content. I got so much content from years I've been putting together and stuff. So yeah, but I just want to put this out. I have no desire for criminal justice reform. Zero. I am only about abolition. That's it. I
Okay,
am not about criminal justice reform because the criminal system is the current government system that is not able to be reformed. It can only be abolished. And that's why I go back to the Declaration of Independence. We, the people, have the right to form a new government. And
okay.
that's what we're doing. A
You know,
new
I'm actually.
government.
By the way, I see Blue Moon Red Wine in the chat. I'm really thrilled about that. I know sometimes I'm tough on you, Lucy, but I always wanted to work together. Yes, so thank you very much for checking out the channel. I'm surprised you're actually watching, but thank you so much, Lucy, and I invite you to come back on my channel. I know sometimes I could be rough, but we got to work together. Yeah, so very interesting comments there, Andy, about the criminal justice reform system. Just I'm also working with another group called Convention of States. They're over the
I know
halfway
them.
mark. They call
COS.
they're over halfway mark to actually call a reconstitutional convention. So if you do want to redo the entire constitution, that is actually they're actually near the top there. There's other I'm not saying they're all good or all bad, but by being involved, we can actually have a voice in that. So I'm glad that you're familiar with them, right?
Yeah, I
People
work with
talk,
the
yeah.
guy out here in DuPage County.
Well, let's go. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Look, people talk about the Wolfpack. They weren't down from 5 to 4 states. I think that Convention of States has like 19, 20 states, right? Stop sending your money to people that are inefficient, that can't get the job done, and are more interested in having a celebrity get together than actually making progress, right? Yeah.
right.
So, yeah, we're gonna keep work. I'm gonna send you an email afterwards. I have a bunch of other things I'm working on right now. I'm actually late to some other stuff, but thank you so much for coming on
Thank
early
you.
this morning.
Thank you.
I'm gonna send you some more information. I'm very excited to meet you and work with you.
Bet. Let's go. All right.
God bless, my brother. Any
Thank
last
you.
message before we sign off?
Yo,
Oh,
DJ
I
Elf,
do have
drop
one
it one
last one.
time.
I do have one last question right here. Thank you so much for that. Now that people have your information, they have your website. What do they have to look forward to? You got any events coming up? Anything special that they?
I got a live tonight with these group called Moms or something. It is. It's a Facebook live. It'll be on my Hood Candidate. It's the Hood Candidate page, not the Hood Candidate political page, but it'll go live tonight. That's Listen, I do this every day, so there's never something that's specifically planned because this is who I am every single day. I done had the prison call me 4 times since we've been on this call. See, I live this. This ain't no vote for me. I'm gonna do this type of stuff. This is what we do because this is what's right to do. We
I
the
feel you,
statesmen.
man.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
that's it, man. Just
this is
keep
my
supporting
life
my
too.
man
Yeah,
DJ Elf, man. Listen, you got a housing issue, a wrongful conviction issue. Let's come to the table. Let's do a workshop so I can teach you about this common law, how to challenge jurisdiction, these things, how to get the judges' oath of office, file claims against their surety bonds. Like let's hit them, and that's what I do.
I deeply appreciate that. I'm really looking forward to working with you. God bless
All
my
right.
brother.
Thanks. Peace out.
Thank you so much. Have a good one. All right. So we're ending it, folks. I'm going to hit end the stream. Once again, shout out to Lucy, Blue Moon Red Wine. Do want to have more local allies that I work with. I know what's his name, Colin, right, was influential on you, and I can't blame that. But Colin's not here in New York, so let's work together. Blue Moon Red Wine, yeah. All right, God bless. All right, thank you, and once again, shout out to 12 Veils. Thanks again for checking out the show. This activism will continue regardless. God bless.